start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal, but chill. When we start the revolution, when we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal, but chill.
What are the white supremacists doing now? They're doing four basic things: racial showcasing, racial population tailoring, racial dislocation, and white sacrificing. And these four things are designed to produce maximum sophisticated confusion among the victims. And so far it's been somewhat successful worldwide. Now I'll start with the first one. What is racial showcasing? That means taking huge numbers of black people and putting them out front. There's going to be more of this all over the planet. Many millions of black people that you will see who will be rolling in money. They'll be able to showcase the places where they live. They'll be able to showcase their knowledge and expertise. So you have television now, you have all of the mediums for doing this, for showcasing huge numbers of black people. I will say it will eventually run into the millions, so many that you won't be able to count them. Now, what is this for? This is for any black person that starts talking about racism in the future is going to be laughed at, because they're going to be able to showcase so many black people who are what you call quote unquote successful, that it will seem that racism has been put out of business. But white supremacy is a world business, and like any other business, it works on profits and losses, which means percentages. You go into business, you expect a certain amount of loss. If you're in the grocery business, well, you might have a load of asparagus that is spoiled. But overall, you will make more profits than you have losses if you're going to stay in the business. Now, so the white supremacists know that the cost of doing the business of white supremacy is going up. They can no longer get away with Joe Louis and Lena Horne like they did years ago. They have to have many more black people who are going to be showcased. I made up this term just to explain it. You have to make up terms because they won't make them up for you. So now that's the first phase, or one of the first elements in the maximum confusion. And so that black people won't be able to say, they'll say, well, you know, it must be something wrong with me that I'm down and out and don't have a biscuit to eat, because there are so many millions of black people who have so much, so it can't be race. But see, for the 4 or 5 million black people who will be showcased, there will be hundreds of millions worldwide who won't have a biscuit. That's the way the business operates in the future and will be. That's the way it seems to be going, according to what? The evidence, according to the logic. The other is racial population tailoring. That's number 2, meaning they're going to be killing huge numbers, either directly or indirectly, of non-white people. When I say black people, I mean, you know, non-white. Anybody who's in the non-white category, and doing this on an ongoing basis. Not to try to kill them all, because when you're in the business of racism, you don't kill off the thing that you need in order to keep racism going. Your ego trip, which is what it's really all about. But you do tailor the population so you can keep them controlled. So you'll kill off a few million in the Congo, then a few years up the road, you'll kill off a few million in Nigeria, and a few years up the road, you'll kill off a few in Mexico, and on and on and on. And you will highly select the places where you do this. You'll have it all computerized, where you kill off huge numbers, or you have them, even better still, kill off each other, like you do in most of the cities in the northwestern part of the world, called the northwestern hemisphere. Having black people gun down each other, you know, non-white people, the brown people gunning down each other, gangs and all that other foolishness. See? And you kill them off, you know, and you just keep this going and you egg it on. And you put things in place that will see to it that it just keeps going there.
Yo, 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 what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So I didn't have any graphics, no music, no none of that. You know what I'm saying? I got to get the whole everything together. You know what I'm saying? But then the crazy thing is that those videos performed better than the ones that I put all the work into. But I put all the work into all the videos because if I didn't put the work in there to the graphic presentation, I'm putting it in there for some thought food for y'all. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. So we got 23 people in this bad boy early already. So I want to give a quick shout out of appreciation to everybody who was here because this is an impromptu stream. You know what I'm saying? It's just some stuff that I wanted to talk about. That's why I've been putting up those little videos because I'm like, man, we got to talk about some things. So we got my man Tone in the building. What up with it, Tone? We got my man Jada Informant in the building. Got my man Torian Rain Reloaded. Shout out to Torian Rain Reloaded for allowing me the honor of doing a collaboration with him. Torian Rain is one of the content creators on YouTube that I respect the most. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Torian Rain. If you guys didn't get a chance to check out that collaboration that me and Torian did, it's still hot, just like them breadsticks with me and TD. So make sure you guys go over there and check it out. While you over there, make sure you subscribe to his channel because that brother is a shining example of black media. So make sure you guys throw some radiation emojis in the chat for Torian Rain for putting in that work. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man Cameron Jones in the building. We got Michael Brown in the house. We got my man Jay Bird. Just so everybody knows, we got to tone down the language because Jay Bird is 16 years old and he's driving a truck. You know what I'm saying? So those virgin ears, you know what I'm saying? We got to preserve the youth as much as we can. So make sure everybody softens their verbal, harshness around Jay Bird. We cannot contaminate this brother while he is still a minor. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Curly Cutie Pie. We got Roots Trackers in the building. My man RG Titan is up in here. My man Cameron is in the building. My man Keep It 100, another great content creator headed towards 10K subs. You know what I'm saying? Keep It 100 is my man. You know what I'm saying? Keep It 100 makes content for men. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you guys check out. And when I say you guys, I literally mean you guys. Check out my man, Keep It 100. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Igor. I see my man Qua is in the building. We also have another wonderful content creator in the house. My man Kid Gravity Beyond is up in here. My man Kid Gravity did a great stream yesterday. And actually, all of Kid Gravity's content is great. So if you guys are not subscribed to Kid Gravity, make sure you guys subscribe to him because I would say thank you guys for helping him reach 2K. But he already reached 2K the other day. So everybody make sure you guys throw some radiation emoji and some congratulations bottles popping in the chat for my man Kid Gravity reaching that 2K mark. You know what I'm saying? We got, hey, Mr. Knickerbocker in the building. We got my man Ricky Jones up in here, my man Carlton Way, Val Williams. We got Brooklyn Queen. Tia is in the house. You know what I'm saying? We in this bad boy thick. JB Easy is in the building, another longtime subscriber. You know what I'm saying? My man DJ Elmo, one of my day ones. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to DJ Elmo. And we got TNBN in the building. All right. So, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. And the reason why I played that Maximum Sophisticated Confusion and the reason why I titled this stream Modified Sophisticated Confusion is because I feel like that's one of the things that's going on with this situation. All right. The mainstream media wants to put the focus on Tyre Nichols as the victim of this crime. And the thing that's sad about this crime is that there's a lot of different victims of this crime. Each and every one of us in this room is a victim of this crime. And the reason why is because the media is not being honest about it. What they're doing is they're using this to their advantage, and they're also using it to test the waters to see exactly how confused people are. They want you to think that progress is being made. Look at how we're punishing these officers. Look at what we're doing. Do you guys see this? This was horrible. This was horrible. This was worse than Rodney King. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Why are they doing that? They're doing that because for so long, they've been hitting us with trauma porn. Shout out to Faith and Lighten. They're doing that because for so long, they've pushed the narrative. Black people are emotional people. They don't critically think. That may be true for some, but it's not true for all. There's a lot of us that are critical thinkers. And for those of us that are critical thinkers, we got a lot of questions that we're asking. Just like the question that my man KO Kid Fit, another wonderful content creator that you guys should subscribe to his channel, just posted here. Why didn't they get the white cop? That is a great question. Isn't that a question that the Nichols family asked? That's a question that he asked. TNBN is asking the same question, or answering that. Actually takes months to charge white cops. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they haven't charged these white cops yet. Shout out to OG Patrice. What up with it, Patrice? So what they want to do is they want to redirect the attention to Tyre Nichols to act as if there's some fake outrage. Now, here's my question, right? How many instances of police violence have we seen in this country? I want you guys to name some instances. And I want you guys to ask yourself the question. Shout out to Nine Nichols. What up with it, Nine? Is this particular case being treated the same way as other instances of police violence against black people? Because, see, what black people have always said is that it's police violence against black people. Black people have never really had trust in police officers under a WS system. Oh yeah, we all saw the white hand in the video. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker, it was there. And there were 2 white cops. Just like how the white cops didn't get fired when they all ran a train on Officer Megan Hall, which was also in Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. Now, here's my question. Why is it more visible for the population at large to see this particular instance of police violence? We can all unite under the fact that this was outrageous. Well, why was this outrageous? Why was this so outrageous to everybody? You know why? Because when you have white supremacist brain damage, or when you have white supremacist vision, it's easier for you to see the negative in something that black people do. White supremacist goggles have a black light or a highlighter effect. If you're looking at everything else would just be like regular scenery. But when it comes to something that black people do, it'll have a fluorescent type visualization. You'll be able to see it a lot easier. Oh my God, these guys were just, oh my God, like this is just terrible. The reason why it's so visible is because most people are looking at this with WS goggles on. The WS goggles on highlight when somebody black does the exact same thing that white people have been doing for years. But now all of a sudden everybody sees it and they're outraged. And for all the people who are asking, well, how is this a racist situation? It was black on black police officers. If Neely Fuller Jr. didn't explain that in the first 5 minutes of the video, well, next time you got to get from point A to point B, make sure you ride the short bus, because that's the one that you need to be on. Okay. So what I find fascinating is that Jason Whitlock, okay, when given an opportunity to have an honest conversation about this, what he did was turned it into gender war content. And he wasn't even honest about it. Jason Whitlock says Tyre Nichols died because officers were, quote unquote, supervised by a single black woman, which isn't even true. A simple Google search would have debunked this idiocy that Jason Whitlock decided to say to Tucker Carlson. Now, I want to fact check myself just to make sure that we're accurate here. The supervisor who did the press conference, the woman, she's married, correct? Yep. See, Torian Rain is right there with the information. Shout out to Torian Rain. The woman is married with a daughter. So my question is, what single black woman were they supervised by? What is Jason Whitlock talking about? Why isn't Fox News being criticized for posting fake news? Fox News is the news agency that a lot of Trump supporters follow. And according to Trump supporters, they don't support fake news. Well, if we're giving incorrect information about a government official, isn't that fake news? Yet, all of the fact checkers, libs of TikTok, Mark Dice, Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, nobody decide to correct the record. So much for that whole we hate fake news thing, right? I guess when the fake news is about people that you don't really like, it's easier for you to accept and digest. So according to this article, it says Jason Whitlock said the 5 officers accused of murdering Tyre Nichols did not know how to act because their chief police is a single black woman. Now, I find that fascinating because one of the police officers didn't know how to act when he wasn't being supervised by her. As far as mothers are concerned, Jason Whitlock didn't mention anything about the pattern of people asking for their mothers before they're killed by law enforcement. That was something else that he could have talked about, but he chose not to. Okay? He chose not to do that. As dubious as an idea as this is, it's also not true. On Friday, the Memphis Police Department released shocking video footage of the arrest on January 7th, which shows some of the officers hitting Nichols, a 29-year-old black man who died 3 days later. The officers, who were also black, have been fired and charged with second-degree murder. Now, let me ask you guys a question, and I'm going to ask this question a million times, as many times as I do streams on this, so please be patient with me. But the point of this is that we have to drive home a point. If we compare this situation of police violence to other situations of police violence, my question is, why is it that those other situations of police violence were not handled the same way that this was handled? Why wasn't there a national outrage the same way that there's a national outrage here? Because it's a lot easier to see black people doing something wrong. There's a lot more excuses that can be made. It's just easier. See, we're the outsiders. Everybody else is the insiders. Asians, Latinos, immigrants. So when we see those social rejects doing something bad, it's easier because that's what the United States set up for them. That's the business of racism in WS, the products that are imported and exported. It's just easier. It's just easier. Now, most questions have multiple dimensions. But if you look at any of those smart Negroes, allegedly self-proclaimed, quote unquote, smart Negroes that have made videos about this, they want to ask the question, well, how is this racism? And in most cases, they examine the victim and say that the victim was resisting. Well, everybody resists. If you put me in a chicken wing, at the point of where you move my elbow to a 90-degree angle with my waist behind my back, there's natural resistance there. So at that point, then you just break my rotator cuff and shove it all the way up. Shout out to my man, Keep It 100. My man Keep It 100 says, bruh, I got your channel and a conservative channel on right now, and they're trying to separate white supremacy from this. And I guarantee you, Keep It 100, what they're doing with their argument is they're saying this was black on black violence. How can it be white supremacy? What they're not doing is they're not talking about the justice process, right? The process of why the justice or why the suspensions didn't happen in the way that they've happened. They're not going to address why the police departments are talking about, oh, well, you know, before the body cam footage came out, these guys used excessive force. When does that happen? See, the point of maximum sophisticated confusion is exactly that, to have people sophisticated yet confused. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on one of the victims, and we're not going to talk about the police, because despite the fact that the police committed the crime, in this situation, both are the victim. Built in, taking two sides of an argument. When you got a perpetrator committing a crime, and when you have the victim as not only a victim of the crime, he's a victim of white supremacy, you got them taking both sides of the argument. Because now we can choose who's the hero versus who's the villain. We can choose who's the martyr versus who's the villain. Yeah, I talked about the white cops, and so did Kid Gravity. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker. And we can only talk about them so far based on what's been released. And Keep It 100 said it was hood conservative. I'm not surprised. You know what I'm saying? I'm not surprised. You know what I'm saying? Hood conservative is exactly that. You know what I'm saying? A hood conservative, a conservative from the hood. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to Val Williams with the $10 super chat. Please make sure you guys show Val some love. Make sure you guys throw some radiation emojis in the chat for Val. She said, I really enjoyed your collaboration with Torian yesterday. You and Torian are always on point. Facts, super facts. And shout out to Torian Rain. Torian Rain is one of the people that's been around since before I actually even had an audience. I started watching Torian in the early days of making content when I was looking for content about Jonathan Price. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Torian Rain. You know what I'm saying? I really appreciate that. He reached out to me to talk and have that that discussion about that Charlie guy, and it was a really good time. And I'm actually honored by that. You know what I'm saying? That's you know what I'm saying? That's basically that's like the equivalent to a varsity basketball player saying you want to play some one-on-one with me. You know what I mean? So shout out to Torian Rain, you know what I'm saying, for that opportunity. You know what I mean? So now it says appearing on Tucker Carlson tonight, shortly after the video was released, Whitlock blamed the mere identity of the Memphis police chief for the incident. He blamed the mere identity of the Memphis police chief for the incident. There is a racial element. All right, I want you guys to hear this. There's a racial element. And this is a story about young black men and their inability to treat each other in a humane way. Okay. Now, we'll revisit that particular sentence. Everyone involved in this on the street level was either 24 to 32 years old. Everybody. It was a group of young black men, 5-on-1. Looked like gang violence to me. So now, when those white police officers killed Zachary Gifford in cold blood in Colorado, and mind you, Zachary Gifford was a white guy, did that look like gang violence? What did that look like? What did that look like? And now, is the racial element that Jason Whitlock is talking about simply the fact that it was some black officers and a black suspect that made it look, quote unquote, like a gang fight? How long have we been saying that the police are a gang? As a matter of fact, we have evidence that there are gangs within the police. We got evidence of the executioners. We got evidence of the banditos. And we also have evidence from the FBI of WS infiltration into the police force. So clearly, right, Jason Whitlock, who always criticizes people of bringing a gang element into the police officers, that's one thing that black people don't have in the police. There's no black gang in the police. There's no black guerrilla force in the police. There's no black guerrilla family infiltration into the police. At least not that I know of. But there are Latino and WS gangs who have successfully infiltrated the police. So there are indeed gang elements of the police, but interestingly, on the law enforcement side, black gangs have not infiltrated the police. Where are some Crips or Bloods in the police? Where are some vice lords or folks in the police? Has anybody heard anything? Has anybody seen anything? Any news reports? Any FBI reports of that? Where's some black Muslims, some Nation of Islam infiltration into the police? Where's some Israel United in Christ, black Hebrew Israelite infiltration into the police? If anybody can find those reports that show evidence of that with people's names, I'll be glad to talk about it. Shoot it to me. Okay. So now here it says it looked like what young black men do when they're supervised by a single black woman. You know what's crazy? LeBron James was a black man supervised by a single black woman. And you know what's interesting about that? I haven't seen LeBron James involved in anything quite like this. As a matter of fact, I don't think LeBron James has really actually even gotten to an altercation during his basketball career. I don't think he ever actually got into a fist fight like what Michael Jordan and them used to do. We all know that the optimal family situation is a nuclear family, but we live in a world that is within the plane of reality. And all ideal situations don't always occur, which means that there's going to be single parent households. If the majority of people raised were criminals by single mothers, that would be an issue. Despite the fact that a nuclear family most likely has the best family outcome, you can't say that the majority of single parent household raised kids are criminals in any community. But Tucker Carlson allowed Jason Whitlock to say fake news. Shout out to James Sumler. What up with it, bro? Without any citation. He just sat there with the deer in the headlights look like he always has. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they got going on in the Memphis Police Department. They've elected some or put some black woman in charge of the police force, and we're getting the same kind of chaos and disunity and violence that we see in a lot of these cities run by single mothers. What city is run by a single mom? He says a lot of cities are run by single mothers. I'm not familiar with cities run by single mothers. So I need a little bit more on that. What does he mean cities ran by single mothers? New York City is ran by Eric Adams. I don't think Eric Adams might be one of those people that's under the impression that men can have children, but he's not a single mother. Okay. If we want to discuss the breakdown of family that leads to disrespect for authority, that causes you to resist the police and run from the police and not comply with the police because you resist authority at all times because there was no male authority in your home, let's have that discussion. Now, that's interesting. Now, so what he does is he goes from the black police officers to the deceased while leaving out the white police officers that were involved. So my question is, are white mothers the reason for all of the white on black police violence? That's my question. Are white mothers the reason for all of the familicide that goes on in the white community? So if a white police officer went to the police station because he was just upset about something and decided to delete the entire precinct, is that a result of a white family? Because that's what we see in the white community is family deletions. Jason Whitlock said it. I'm just curious. I'm just curious. You know what I mean? Aside from the wrongness of blaming Nichols' death on the police chief's status as a quote-unquote single black woman, Chief Sarah Lynn Davis is actually married to a retired law enforcement officer and has one daughter, according to her bio on the Memphis Police Department website. So she was also married to a police officer. So as far as authority, this is a woman who was married to somebody who was probably at least her professional equivalent. So there's that. Davis has served in the role since 2021 after a stint as police chief in Durham, North Carolina, and as a deputy in Atlanta. You've been on the show so many times, Carlson told Whitlock, and every single time you say something I never would have thought of, including what you just said, and I appreciate it. So you see how Tucker Carlson kept himself safe. He said, I'm not going to touch what you said, but thank you for coming on the show. Just pay very close attention to that. Whitlock is a frequent guest of Carlson's. Last year, he told Fox News host, I probably am a sexist pig. So there's that. I've said on my channel multiple times, people could consider me misogynistic by today's definition and standards of misogyny. But it seems like I try to keep an open mind when it comes to these situations. Yeah, I agree, Torian. Fatlock fits right in at Fox News. I agree 100%. So now, when it comes to sports commentators, everybody's weighing in on this. Who saw Joe Campbell's opinion on this? You guys know who Joe Campbell is? If you guys know who Joe Campbell is, put his name in the chat. Joe Campbell decided to weigh in on this. Yeah, I agree, Val. I've been asking that question for a long time. Are white fathers in the home the reason for school shootings by PC teenagers? Are white fathers in the home the reason for mass shootings, period? Every single one is always a white nuclear family.
All right, back to our top story. Memphis police released the body camera video showing the brutal beating of Tyre Nichols. His mom describes her grief after the death of her son.
I felt a lot of pain and discomfort in my stomach. And at the time, I didn't realize what it was. But once I found out, then I just said that was my son's pain that I was feeling.
Here to react, the author of a brand new memoir, Straight Shooter, Stephen A. Smith.
So now Stephen A. Smith is getting Fox News airtime. Because Stephen A. Smith looks like Joe Campbell. Okay. Carlton Way said, you talking about Jay-Z? Nah, I'm not Nas, but this is Ether. You know what I'm saying? I'm not Nas, but this is Ether. You know what I'm saying? So Stephen A. Smith is on Fox News. Stephen A. Smith is getting a promo for a book. Like they always do. Shout out to Poker Villain over on Twitch. Stephen A. is annoying. I agree.
My friend, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. You know, we were going to have you today to talk about Straight Shooter, and we can touch on it a bit later. But in the wake of this incident, in the wake of the video and the protest last night, you were no better guest to hear from this morning than Stephen A. Smith.
Listen, my man Keep It 100 said, I had to jump off that live, bro. Listen, bro. Keep it 100. Keeping it 100 is your strength. And keeping it 100, if you want to call it that, is your weakness. Take that with a grain of salt. But nothing but respect from your boy. You know what I'm saying?
It was an atrocity. There's no question about it. My heart goes out to Tyre Nichols' family. Of course, him. He was tortured. He was beaten. And as far as I'm concerned, second-degree murder doesn't begin to touch on what these officers deserve. They took his life. And as far as I'm concerned, the 5 officers involved, their life should be.
There's two questions about what officers deserve. See, what I want to make sure that people, shout out to Indigo. I know you ain't, bro. I know you ain't. And I'm there for it. I'm there. I'll be right in there. You know what I'm saying? You already know I'm going to be there. You know what I'm saying? I already know. You know what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing, right? There's two questions about how the officer should be treated. Because in this situation, if the media is putting the focus on the victim, yes, absolutely. The victim deserves respect. The victim deserves counsel, and we should be in support of the victim, right? But the issue is that there's two victims of WS. There was just one side of that equation that chose wrong, and it was the police officers that chose wrong. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. They chose wrong. You know what I'm saying? The mainstream media is going to continue to put the focus on Tyre Nichols to downplay the haste at which this was expedited. Now, in most cases, right? In most cases, the conservative media, the mainstream media, all of these people would be making excuses for the police officers. But in this case, they're not. What we got to ask are the questions of inconsistency, because remember, in a system of white supremacy, where I'm white and I say so is the law, it's the inconsistencies that are the weak point, which is one of the reasons why when we're dealing with this kind of nonsense, record keeping is imperative, which is one of the reasons why I encourage everybody. If you watch my videos, if you watch Torian's videos, if you watch TD Hip Hop Media, Keep It 100, anybody, if you can't get the content talked about the way you want to get it talked about, turn your phone on, drop your opinion about it, put it on YouTube, put it on TikTok, because it's the inconsistencies that have to be hammered home. And despite the fact that we have all the respect and support for the victim, the reason why the narrative is being pushed to the focus of the brutality of the victim is because what we're doing is all blue lives mattering the police. And nah, it's not that easy. Because now what we got to do is we got to ask the question, these officers, there's one or two things that should happen. These officers either need to be treated like all the white officers who beat the crap out of people unjustly, or all of the white officers who beat the crap out of people unjustly need to be treated like these officers. Those are the questions that need to be being asked. That's where the pressure needs to be applied. We all know that Tyre Nichols got done wrong. Tyre Nichols getting done is not a question. We know he got done wrong. You know what I'm saying? We know he got done wrong. We all got his back. But now it's time to look at this alleged system of justice. Because in this alleged system of justice, what they're telling us is what our justice should be. But what you should see is that what they're telling you is that you won't be protected from law enforcement. What law enforcement will do is that law enforcement will facilitate a white police officer beating the brakes off of you, but it's intolerable for black police officers to overstep their boundaries. And if that's not what you're seeing from this, I'd advise you to re-examine it. This does nothing for justice. Nothing. And that's the point. Shout out to Sugar Bum. What up with the Sugar Bum? It's a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger with ice and air as sides. You know what I'm saying? The hand of the law will come down on those police officers, but it's not for beating Tyre Nichols. It's because those officers got out of place. They were reckless, and you don't have the privilege to do that. That privilege is resolved or is reserved for the officers that didn't get in trouble. And those would be those white hands that were on the taser triggers. That's what that would be. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man, Mr. Knock. What up with it, bro? If you guys haven't smashed the like button, please help your boy out. take a moment. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not shared the video, please make sure you guys share the video. And if you're not subscribed to my other channels, because, you know, you guys, Torian said that I have 100 channels and TD said that I have 100 channels, make sure you guys go subscribe. If you guys subscribe to one of my channels every 2 minutes, by the end of the stream, you'll have subscribed to 15% of my content.
Taken, meaning they should be in prison for the rest of their lives. I don't know whether that will happen. Of course, we'll let the judicial system reach that conclusion. But what I wanted people to remember was that if you're watching these videos, and I watched all 66 minutes of it, if you watch the video with the body cam, there is a point, a significant chunk of time where you can't see what is going on, but you hear the officers screaming, put your hands behind your back and all of this other stuff. They already had him restrained. They already had him in their possession. Then the surveillance cam from across the street is what caught them.
Now, here's my question. How many times have we seen this before? We about to get into DJ mode, DJ Blacklight on the 1s and 2s again, life on repeat. How many times have we seen this? Torian Rain said, Rob, have you seen this movie called Black and Blue? Nah, I haven't seen it. There you go, KO Kid Fit. My man KO Kid Fit is asking the right questions. What did Steve say about the other police who do this stuff? Here's another question, KO Kid Fit. When is the last time Fox News brought Steven on the show? When is the last time? Facts. Kid Gravity Beyond says he really watched all of it and can really be calm describing what he saw. Right. And real quick, everybody who's a content creator that's in the chat, please make sure you guys drop the links to your channels so that everybody can go and subscribe. Okay. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker says, Rob, seriously, don't drive with headphones. I was literally scared for you that whole stream. Listen, I'm a professional. You know what I'm saying? I'm certified. I'm a certified villain. Where's Shatira and Get Noticed with Nikki at? Or Izzy? You know what I'm saying? They'll tell you I've been doing that shit for years. But if anybody in law enforcement ever asked me, it's just green screen. Or a deep fake. You know what I'm saying?
You saw 2 officers holding him down. You saw another officer come and kick him in the face twice. You saw another officer come out of nowhere and grab the nightstick or the baton, whatever word you want to use, and struck him at least twice. They beat him to death. There is no way around it. And as far as I'm concerned, obviously something needs to be done, but I do think it's important to call for peaceful protests and to recognize the fact that the system itself appears to be working the way it always should. They were immediately fired. They were immediately indicted. Okay, the charges have been placed against them, and the process has been expedited, and it's moved with the quickness, and I'm very happy about that.
You know, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And
Sure.
Look, you and I have a long history of having honest disagreement with one another on various serious issues.
Absolutely.
There is universal agreement, I think, right now. This is horrific.
Yeah.
It's an injustice. And more than that, it's a crime.
Yes.
When you see this incident, Stephen A., do you see the indictment of a few bad apples in a police department, individuals, or do you see something systemic, a problem here that needs to be addressed at a larger level?
I definitely think it's systemic.
Yeah, Stephen A. actually absolutely does talk to himself the entire time. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker says, I was watching the road for you that whole time. Listen, you know what you should have been doing? I live in the boonies. I live in the boondocks. You know what I'm saying? Like, where I live at is very interesting. I live in the city, but I live in the boondocks of the city. You know what I'm saying? When you know about the boondocks, what you should be worried about is what's going on inside of those white households. You know what I'm saying? There could be a family getting deleted at any moment. You know what I'm saying? We need to come out with a documentary. I don't know if anybody's down, Torian or Kid Gravity, you know what I'm saying? Or Keep It 100. But we need to come out with a documentary called Surviving the Suburbs. Maybe Netflix will pick it up.
but that doesn't mean that all police officers would do this. Where the systemic part comes in is the fact that you had 5 police officers, nobody stops you. And so what we're looking at, of course, there's a few bad apples. Of course, not every police officer would do this. Of course, this is a stain on the men in blue, people who've sworn, men and women, people who've sworn to protect and serve, and nobody should castigate them as a group. But as a black man, what you're saying is that when this kind of stuff happens, call them out, because if you're going to stand by and do nothing, you're a part of the problem. If you're somebody that's wearing that blue uniform, you should feel just as bad, if not worse, towards those police officers who did this, because they stain you. They really impugn your integrity and what you stand for. And you have to be just as...
So pay very close attention to how the conversation is directed away from comparing the treatment of the situation to other situations. That's the point. That's what we have to redirect this conversation to. This is evidence. I want you guys to understand this. I want you guys to see how clear this is, because this should be clear as day. This is evidence that if they want to make the justice system work, oh, they can make it work, right? They can make it work. It can work just like that. We don't have to go through all of that body cam stuff. And you know what I'm saying? We don't have to go through all of that. We can get that handled right off the rip. As a matter of fact, we can even come out with statements. Shout out to DSB. We can come out with statements where we even incriminate the officers before trial, before the body cam is released. Now, why hasn't that been done in the past? Is this setting a new precedent? The questions that I would be asking is this what's going to go down going forward? Is this a new approach to these kind of incidents? Or is this only reserved for this incident? That's the question. Because let me ask you guys a question. If every single incident of police violence was examined, scrutinized, and looked at like this, with an honest take from the police department, would people complain? Sure, people would be complaining because of the usual expectations of complaints. Nobody wants to see a civilian die in this way. But would the complaints be as harsh against the police department? I doubt it. Well, we can count on them getting rid of the bad apples. We can't count on them getting rid of the bad apples. Because when it comes to the police department, what you're looking at right here, these are the only instances of what they consider a bad apple. Somebody that gets them exposed.
As diligent as you expect American citizens and, dare I say, a jury of our peers to be. Black folks put black folks in jail all the time.
There we go.
We do not hesitate.
There we go. Black folks put black folks in jail all the time. That's what black folks do. That's what we do. Matter of fact, I just put 5 people in jail just a couple minutes ago. No, I didn't. Let me ask you guys a question. Everybody that's in the chat. Survey time. All right. I need full chat room participation. How many of you all have put somebody in jail? And he said that black people do that all the time. We got 73 people in here, which means that at least 40 of you guys should have been putting somebody in jail all day yesterday. So did you guys do that? My man Keep It 100 says, Rob, I remember the non-white cop that was swiftly indicted for killing the white woman. Yeah, that was Muhammad Noor, right? If I'm not mistaken, in Minnesota. Yeah, none of us in here put anybody in jail. So Poker Villain says that's not what he's saying, though. He's not being literal. What is he saying then? Explain to us what he's saying. If I'm taking what he said wrong, help me understand. What is he saying then? My man, We Woke Now is in the building. If you guys are not subscribed to my man, We Woke Now, please make sure you guys take a moment. If I got a moderator, because I don't think I gave We Woke Now a wrench. You know what? Matter of fact, We Woke Now, hang tight. I'm about to give We Woke Now a wrench real quick. If you guys are not subscribed to my man, We Woke Now, please make sure that you guys check out We Woke Now's content. Okay. So give me 2 seconds. If you guys haven't smashed that like button, make sure you guys smash that like button. All right. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell. Give me 2 seconds because I'm about to make We Woke Now a mod with a wrench so that he can put his channel link in the chat, because We Woke Now makes ridiculously good content. Ridiculously good content. And you guys need to check his content out. You know what I'm saying? It's a must. That is some good content on that channel. You know what I'm saying? All right, We Woke. You should have a wrench. So go ahead and drop your channel link. Okay. And shout out to We Woke Now for the $50 super chat. Make sure you guys throw some radiation emoji in the chat and show my man Pastor Kelly some love. You know what I'm saying? My man We Woke Now says, absolutely. I spoke on the couple of nights ago. Most white police incidents against blacks don't make it to the grand jury. Great discussion. I agree 110%, bro. I agree 110%. You are absolutely right about that. You are absolutely right about that. And this is the problem. These people that get in the mainstream media, who get an opportunity, I'll give you a little bit of a boost on your book if you just say the things that we want you to. Those kind of black people throw other black people in jail figuratively daily. What I find fascinating is that's exactly what Stephen A. is doing right there. That's what Jason Whitlock did right there. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Dwayne Rhodes. Jason Whitlock threw black people, black women. He threw everybody under the bus. Stephen A's throwing everybody under the bus. Black people put black people in jail daily. Everybody puts everybody in jail daily. Here's a question. What is the composition of most juries? The racial composition of most juries. Anybody got any idea? What does the racial composition of most juries look like? Give me you guys' thoughts on that. Now, and then the question after that is, if the racial composition of most juries looks that way, how is it us putting people in jail? What do the judges look like? Are most judges black people? Do they look like me? Do they sound like me? Might be the next best thing, but not quite me. So where are we putting people in jail at? Here's another question. Are we building jails to house people in? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys throw some radiation emoji in the chat for I am showing some love. $20 on a super sticker. Definitely appreciate it. That's the question. So again, Stephen A. with the false narrative. Notice how Fox doesn't give him any pushback. Well, what do you mean by that, Stephen A? You want to elaborate on that? Did you talk about it in your book? What chapters can people find it on? No. Stephen A. is doing the same thing that Stephen A. just always does. He's just rambling. He's just rambling. Somebody get this guy some Imodium. He's got diarrhea of the mouth.
So what we want everybody else to do from different ethnicities, different communities, is to do the same. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Deal with it on that level.
Do you see this in any way as an issue of race?
Well, I do see it as an issue of race in this regard, in terms of what has happened to the young black man. We don't see this happening to white individuals. Now, if it has happened and we haven't seen it, we haven't seen it. Maybe they need to show us more of that. But the reality of the situation is that when you're talking about unarmed individuals,
this particular incident of getting beat like this hasn't happened to white individuals, but dirty cops have killed white individuals. Yeah. So I find it fascinating that Stephen A. said we don't see this happening to white cops or to white people, because it does. Maybe not necessarily a beating like this, a public maceration like this, but white people have gotten killed like this by the police, by dirty cops. So my question is, why would Stephen A. say that? So now the question that we got to ask is, what kind of coon spin? What kind of coon spin is Stephen A going to put on this? Right? Because let me ask you guys a question. Why would Fox News ask Stephen A, do you see a racial element behind this? The reason why Fox News would ask Stephen A if he saw a racial element behind this is because Stephen A is not going to direct the answer to the white supremacy forces behind the entire police department. He's not going to talk about how dirty cops can get jobs. Just like how the dirty cop, Hawley, was part of the crew that beat this guy up. When it comes to Zachary Gifford in Colorado, both of the cops that beat him up were dirty. Both of the cops that killed him were dirty. But they have that privilege of getting back on the police force. Now we got to look at all the dirty police, the dirty cops that get on the police and do these same things. How do they get to be part of the police? Because they keep letting them. Because there's a system in place that allows degenerates to become, quote unquote, law enforcement. But he's not going to say that. Stephen A ain't going to be honest about that. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys show some love to my man Kid Gravity Beyond for becoming a YouTube channel member. I got to give Kid Gravity Beyond a wrench so he can put his channel link in the chat too. So give me a second real quick, you guys. Make sure you guys smash that like button and show some love and throw some radiation emojis in the chat for my man Kid Gravity. Like I said, my man Kid Gravity did a great stream about this the other day, and I really encourage everybody to go back and check it out. And again, congratulations on hitting that 2K mark. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that's a YouTube content creator can vouch that just even getting 1,000 subscribers is a monumental task when you're black on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on real quick. Let me okay, there we go. Yeah, see, I got you. See, Kid Gravity gonna have a little pleasant surprise. You know what I'm saying? My man Keep It 100 says wait till Saturday. Keep It 100, you got a wrench on this channel, bro? If you got a wrench, let me know in the chat. You know what I'm saying? But do you guys agree with my assessment of why they asked Stephen A if there was a racial element? The reason why they asked Stephen A if there was a racial element to this is for him to say no, or for him to say yes, and the racial element is because of some kind of manufactured black degeneracy that he's going to come up with. Whatever the racial element is, it's not white supremacy. So if they allow him to answer yes, he's not going to direct the answer back to the white supremacy forces that guide the police. Okay, my man got a wrench. Okay, that's what's up. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed that like button, take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not subscribed to my backup channels, take a moment, go ahead and subscribe to about 5 of them, then come back. You know what I'm saying?
Who are getting beat up or brutalized by police officers, they're usually black men. In that regard, that's the race issue. But with Freddie Gray in Baltimore, some of those officers were black. It wasn't just white officers that did that to Gray, to Freddie.
So now because the officers are black, it's not a race issue. There you have it. There you have it. Shout out to Robin Ann Battle. What up with it, Robin? There you have it. So what you guys got to understand is that when it comes to discussing these issues, the main issue that the white media focuses on is the issue that's false. It's the issue that's false. Make sure you guys understand that. Yeah, my man Tone did used to have a wrench. I got to get you one back, bro. Give me a second. Hold on real quick. Let me see if I can find you real quick.
Gray, there were black officers too. I'm talking about race from a victim's perspective.
Right.
The victims are usually black unarmed males. When that issue happens, when it's unarmed males, it's usually young black males that this happens to.
And how do you explain that?
Well, I think that from a systemic perspective, we think about the way Black folks in this country are, the kind of messages that are disseminated to the masses about us, how we're depicted plays a role. And obviously, that doesn't mean that there isn't some legitimacy to it on a case-by-case basis. But the important
Or
words,
broader statistics, when an officer goes into an involvement,
right,
he understands as well the neighborhood I'm in, the
That's right.
prevalence for the crime that could be
Exactly.
committed. So a lot of that's playing into.
It plays into it all, and we understand that. But at the end of the day, that's why training comes into play. That's why, see, I've never been a proponent of defunding the police. Absolutely not. As far as I'm concerned, throw more money into law enforcement, except, you know,
There you go. Do you guys see that? Tone, do me a favor. Comment on one of the videos, and when you comment, because I just looked up your name and I don't have the @ so it's kind of difficult for me to find it. When you comment on the video, I'll throw that wrench on there. Okay. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to Faith Enlighten with the $5 super chat. Faith says, Rob, I'm so proud of you to see how the platform is growing. Glad more are becoming of you. Yeah, I definitely, I'm very thankful. And I wouldn't be able to grow if it wasn't for content creators like TD, content creators like my man We Woke Now, content creators like my man Moxie Approve, content creators like my man Keep It 100 and Kid Gravity. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be able to grow if it wasn't for people like that. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to each and every one of them. You know what I'm saying? But you guys see what Stephen A just did? You guys see what Stephen A just did? So now we got to ask the question, well, Stephen A, why are you so pro police officer? Notice how what they're doing is they're attempting to go in on the police officers, and then at the same time, they're bringing it back and saying, well, we need more police officers. Look what these police officers just did, but we need more. It's the inconsistencies that's going to be the break of the back. That's what we got to do. Poker Villain says they need to vet better officers and provide way more training. Still, we see police abuse because power always corrupts. Absolutely. I think it's a little bit more than that. That is true, but that's not the entire story. You know what I'm saying? I will agree with that, but that's more. Like if that was an essay question to a test, I'd give you maybe like a 70% on that. And that's being generous. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Lana L. What up with it, Lana? But it is true. I can't sit there and say what you're saying isn't true. There's just more to the story if you ask me. You know what I'm saying?
You do that so they can receive the proper training and to make sure they know how to navigate their way through all of this. Just like Dan Bongino said when he came on a bit earlier, you're not trained to do what we saw transpire.
No.
Now, here's my question. If you're not trained to do what we saw transpire, why does it happen so often? And why does it happen as if somebody is trained to do it? Because it happens the same way. Not only do they do it as if they're trained to do it, the responses to it being done are as if somebody is trained to respond to those things happening. My man Keep It 100 says, I'm ex-law enforcement. There's plenty of training. You can't train out racism. I agree. If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. My man Keep It 100 says, proper training is a cop-out. I totally agree. And that's probably where that term, quote unquote, cop out came from. You know what I'm saying?
Those are guys that are rogue. Highlight those individuals. But if you're a part of the police force and you've been trained and you know to do better, then part of your obligation is to stop your contemporaries, your colleagues from engaging in such heinous acts.
Now, you know why that wouldn't happen? You know why that wouldn't happen? How many of you guys recall the case of the woman in Buffalo who stopped her partner from choking a handcuffed suspect? You guys remember that? They talked about it on the Breakfast Club. There was a woman in Buffalo, a black female police officer, and her white male partner was choking a cuffed suspect. Here's my question. What happened to her? What happened to her?
The fact that nobody stopped it. We had just the 5 officers that were arrested. What about the other officers who came to the scene? They did nothing. They did nothing.
What color were they, Stephen A? Now, see, what I find fascinating is that Stephen A brings up the racial element without saying race. She just got her pension recently. She got charged, too. Qua says she got fired. Facts, Qua. Shout out to Lloyd Sky 9. What up with it, bro? Yeah. Yeah, you guys are all 110% correct. Shout out to Vega. What up with it, Vega? Keep It 100 says good cops are punished. Yeah, they are. And that woman in Buffalo is an instance of that. Val said, I remember she got fired and they took away her pension. She had to fight for years to get her pension back. Now, here's the question. When it comes to human psychology, operant conditioning, is that positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement? And if it's negative reinforcement, you're going to do that same thing at a less frequency because of consequences. If it's positive frequency, if it's positive reinforcement, you're going to do that same thing at a higher frequency because of reward. If you lose your pension and get charged, is that positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement? So it's very easy to answer that question. If there's negative reinforcement for an activity that you do as part of your job, it's most likely that you're going to do that activity at less of a frequency. So here's the question. When it comes to this, why are we acting stupid? Are we acting stupid because we are stupid? Well, when it comes to Stephen A. and Fox News, I'd have to say, yeah.
What about the EMT workers? You came 10 minutes later. You were slow to address the concerns that were clearly obvious. So when you see stuff like that happens, there's something systemic to it. I'm not an expert. I'm not going to pretend to be. So I'm not going to go in.
But Stephen A. says that he's an expert on the black community. If you're not an expert, why did they bring you up there to talk? If you're not an expert, what you should do is what everybody who's not an expert does. Let the experts talk about it. I'm not an expert. I give my opinions. I say what I say is my opinion all the time. Now, why does Stephen A. get so much camera time if by his own testimony, he's not an expert? Jay says, Rob, you having call-ins? This might end up being kind of long. So I might not have a call-in for this. But what I think I might do is I might just do a all call-in show in a couple days. And everybody who calls in, it'll be all you guys. You can just talk, say everything that you want to say. I'll just basically be the host and you guys can just get it in. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? I might. It depends on how quickly we get through this. You know what I'm saying? Torian and TD got me feeling kind of guilty about how long I'll be having y'all on. So, you know what I'm saying? You know.
Further than that.
Oh, yeah. And Jay, you was talking shit. I don't know, Jay. Jay, you was talking shit the other day. I think I didn't catch it. No, I'm just playing. I'm just talking shit. I'm just messing with you, bro.
But I'm looking at what most American people are looking at today. We're appalled. It's a heinous act. As far as I'm concerned, this should have been first-degree murder charges. And who's to say that's not going to happen down the road? They tortured and beat this kid to death. They have got to pay.
You and I will continue this conversation and many more about your life, about Straight Shooter, your rise to stardom at ESPN and beyond on the Will Cain podcast, which comes out this coming Monday. I know you went live last night on the No Mercy podcast, which you can check out at YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Get Unfiltered Stephen A., which you always get.
And discomfort.
So there you go. So now here's my question for you guys. What was Stephen A.'s contribution to that conversation? What was Stephen A.'s contribution to that conversation? Jay laughing like, yeah, bro. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Stephen A. about giving him first-degree charges too. But what I would have asked is, why are these police officers being treated different than the other police officers? And what I would have done is I would have flipped the question back on them. Do you notice any difference between the way Derek Chauvin, Amber Geiger, and all these other people were treated versus these police? That's what I would have did. That's what I would have asked if I was Stephen A. Thank goodness, though. You know what I'm saying? Thank goodness I'm not Stephen A. You know what I'm saying? So what I want to do next is we're going to play the rest of that Neely Fuller Jr. video. And the reason why we're going to play the rest of that Neely Fuller Jr. video is because what's going on now is very bizarre. I want to ask you guys, how do you guys feel about the whole quote unquote defund the police narrative? And you guys can be 110% honest. If you're 110% about defund the police, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Let me know. If you are not with defund the police, if you think there needs to be police, but you have some suggestions on how to improve the police, drop those comments as well. Okay. But there's a reason why I'm asking that. And regardless of if you agree or disagree about defund the police, I guarantee you that you will agree with this next thing that we're going to talk about.
And you kill them off, you know, and you just keep this going and you egg it on. And you put things in place that will see to it that it just keeps going that way. It never stops. Because that's the mentality of the people. And this is racial population tailoring. In other places where the people are reasonably sane, they don't have a tendency to kill off each other. Then you do things like dry up the water, or poison the rivers, dump toxic waste. There's all kinds of ways to do that racial population tailoring. All right, then the other, number 3, is racial dislocation. Keep them moving. People who are forever on the move through eminent domain, urbanization, urban renewal, gentrification, or, here again, drying up the river. You build a dam 800 miles up, and the river seals off the water behind the dam. I mean, the dam is sealed off, the river is sealed off behind the dam. So that means that all the people down in the valley there, they don't get any water. They need water. They depend on the fishing industry. So now they have to come and work for you because there's no more water there, no more fish. And you give them minimum wage and a promise for the future as long as they look up to you. So they'll know they're completely dependent. But keep them moving. If a black person in the Northwestern Hemisphere starts getting that second generation house, then you come through and say you got to build a highway. That's the technique. Now, these are things that you asked about how the white supremacists operate. These are the ways that they operate. The white sacrificing is the 4th. And this is, here again, all 4 of these things are for maximum sophisticated confusion among the victims. So you're not confused. You're keeping your victims confused. So you have white sacrifices, meaning it's kind of parallel to the racial showcasing. But these people in this case are white. Like in any army, or any military operation, you know you're going to have some losses.
So now this is where you get all of that, the war against white people, Mark Dice talk. This part right here, quote unquote, anti-white racism and all of this stuff. That is the advertisement area of this right here. And real quick, if you guys ever want to watch these cartoons, make sure you guys go over to Hip Hop Cartoons on YouTube. My man Lido does a wonderful job with these animations. You know what I'm saying? So if you guys are not subscribed to Hip Hop Cartoons, make sure you guys go over there and check out that channel. It's a great channel with great content.
So some white people are written off under the system of white supremacy. And a lot of white people are aware of this. They don't like it, but they're told that this is the cost of doing business. Just like a person who goes into the army and knows full well you might get killed, but it goes with the territory of trying to defend your bigger operation.
And when you guys hear me when I say the United States Corporation of America, whose business is the import and export of white supremacy, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about.
So white sacrifices mean you'll have more and more white people on park benches, more and more white people begging on streets. They will be greatly visible. But what you won't pay attention to, because black people never pay much attention to what white people are doing, we just watch each other. See, they know that. You'll be passing millions.
And that's one of the reasons why I do so many reaction videos to people like Mark Dice. And I'd advise more people to start doing stuff like that. Like what me and Torian just did with that Asian guy. If you're in a war and you never look at your opposition, how are you ever going to come up with a strategy? So if you're not looking at the opposition to see how they move, to be able to calculate their moves, and you ask yourself, well, we've been here for a long time and we can't figure this out. Yet if we don't watch to keep track of what's going on, you got to ask yourself that question.
Of white people who are doing well on any city street. And for the handful of white people who have fallen through the cracks, you might say, sitting in front of the subways or begging in front of these delicatessen, for the handful that you see doing that, up under the bridge and all like that, it will give the illusion that it's not about race, that white supremacy is officially out of business.
Now, isn't that funny? It's not about race. White supremacy is officially out of business. I mean, at this point in American history, we have black police officers beating other black people worse than Rodney King got beaten. This must be a sign of American progress, because if black cops are doing to black people what white people have done to black people, clearly racism doesn't exist. Welcome to 2023. Modified, sophisticated confusion.
So there will be more of these white sacrifices, and they will be greatly visible. But compared to the number of white people who will be prospering, it will be very negligible worldwide. Now, those are the four maximum sophisticated confusion elements.
The four maximum sophisticated confusion elements. Here's another maximum sophisticated confusion element. In an area that was so riddled with crime that they had to have a unit called the Scorpion Unit. Now that the Scorpion Unit has been deactivated, how's that area going to thrive? Here's my question, ladies and gentlemen. How many people knew that the Scorpion Unit had been deactivated? Oh, yeah, that happened. Scorpion Unit is a thing of the past. It's no longer in existence. Has anybody ever seen an entire unit get deactivated just instantaneously like this before? Let's keep it a buck. Has this ever happened? Yeah, Kid Gravity said he said that yesterday. Facts. So now we got to ask all of these questions, right? And let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to the government in Tennessee, is it a Democrat government or is it a conservative government? Let me know, because I'm not too sure. I don't know. I'm actually asking that question for my own purposes. Because all of these moves are multi-pronged. You guys know that there's a real estate angle to this move. And the real estate angle of this move is one of the reasons why we're going to be talking about the Pritzker family. Memphis is blue. Now, has anybody identified the hustle that's going on in the blue cities? It's amazing. The blue cities have all of the corporations and all of the crime, because it costs money to put up corporations. And if you want to save money, you got to put up your corporations in areas that are cheap. What's the quickest way to drive down the price of commercial real estate to surround it in a high crime area. Let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to every single person in here, we got 86 people in here. Shout out to everybody that's in here. Make sure you guys smash that like button if you guys haven't. And if you guys have not shared the video to your social media, please take a moment and share it to your Twitter, share it to your Facebook. I want to ask this question. When it comes to the hospitals in your area, are they in the best areas, or are they in areas where you better make sure you got your piece and a clip with you? Where are the hospitals located? And shout out to the Black Authority, because he actually alluded to this in the live stream that he did yesterday. Run up the crime, run down the price. Business moves in, white people move out to the suburbs, but they keep their jobs. You got a whole money factory. You run it down, you build it up. You run it down, you build it up. You run it down, you build it up. Now, pay very close attention to who funds all of the Democratic initiatives. They're the same people that's upset with Kanye West. And they own a lot of the buildings. They own a lot of the real estate. People are invested in maintaining high crime areas. Yet they talk about the crime like it's a problem. Well, if we talk about the crime like it's a problem, it's going to drive the price down. Drive the price down, you can buy up a whole block. You buy up a whole block, set your business up, you paying nothing, next to nothing for the real estate. Black to Black got it. The Sombreritos. Sombreritos, ese. So now here's the question. What's going to happen now that the Scorpion unit is just deactivated? It's gone. This was a high crime area. This area was so high in crime that they had to come up with a unit called the Scorpion unit. And now, just because of one police violence incident that's gotten national television, that was horrific. Yet, despite the fact that it was horrific, it's something that we see all the time, but it was horrific. Poof! The whole entire unit is gone. So here's my question. What's going to control the crime there? Have you ever seen that before? Man, so much for defund the police. Man, they didn't just defund the police. They abolished the Scorpion unit instantly. Have you ever seen that before? DBB says they'll start the tarantula unit. Facts. The United States is ran by the wasp unit. And you know wasps kill tarantulas. You know what I'm saying? Ironic. New York Police Department anti-crime. I just saw a video where Mayor Eric Adams said that he was the victim of police violence. I wonder if that was while he was on the force. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says 5 officers assigned to the unit have been charged in Nichols' death. Now, let me ask you guys a question, right? When it comes to the police and they're involved in an incident like this, usually the narrative is this isn't a reflection of the culture of the police department. This is evidence of the individuals involved. If that's the case, why take down the whole unit? Does that make any sense? We didn't get a statement like that when it came to the Scorpion unit. They just Houdini'd them. Poof. You're gone. Have a nice life. You know what I'm saying? So now for people who haven't seen the body cam video, I think they might play a little bit of it in here. I'm just gonna, okay, hold on real quick. I'm gonna try to go past it because I know there's a lot of people that don't want to see it, and I don't want to spoil anybody's appetite by inadvertently making people watch it. So I think I've gone past it. So I want everybody to know that if you end up seeing it, as a result of this little 5-minute video on here, I didn't mean to show it to you. All right. But I think we've gone past it. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to what they say in this video, and then we're going to come back to this article.
In the streets and block traffic on the interstate. Nichols' family pleading for protesters to remain peaceful.
And President Biden speaking with Tyre's mother and stepfather hours before the video was released to express his condolences and commend the family for their courage and strength. We'll be joined by Tyre's family in just a few moments. But first, ABC's Stephanie Ramos is in Memphis with the latest on that video. Stephanie, good morning to you.
Hi there, Janae. In that video, you see Memphis police officers kicking, punching, using a baton on 29-year-old Tyre Nichols, who died days later.
Kicking, punching, using a baton, died later. Have we seen that happen before? If we've seen that happen before, give me a thumbs up. If we've never seen it happen before, give me a thumbs down. Now, for everybody that gives me a thumbs down and says we haven't seen that happen before, I want you guys to tell me in the comment section what we have seen before, okay?
Later. In that video, you also hear Tyre call out for his mother. He asks, "What did I do?" The hour-long video is disturbing.
This morning, outrage and protests in the streets of Memphis following the release of disturbing body camera footage showing the brutal beating of 29-year-old Tyre Nichols at a traffic.
I want everybody to understand this. Body camera footage comes out, people go and protest in the streets. Now, let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to these kind of incidents, do you guys think they already know what's going to happen? If they already know what's going to happen, do you think that they've possibly already calculated the outcome? If they've already calculated the outcome, do you think that they've already dealt with the assumed risk? If they've already dealt with the assumed risk, the next question is, do you think that the risk is high enough for them to not do it again? That's the question. If you can predict somebody's move and you already have a counter lined up, you're probably not worried about what they're going to do because you know what they're going to do. If I hit your knee with a little rubber hammer, can I assume that your knee will jerk? That's what they call a knee-jerk reaction. Body camera footage comes out, everybody hits the streets. Body camera footage comes out, everybody hits the streets. So now let me ask you guys a question. After years of seeing that same pattern, do you think that the United States is already ready for the consequences of quote-unquote people hitting the street? My question is, what kind of effect does people hitting the street have on the United States? Does it create a consequential situation that will deter that kind of behavior from happening again? That's my question.
Stop. The incident happened January 7th around 8:30 in the evening. You can see here police stop Nichols while he's in his car and pull him out. In the video,
Hold on real quick. We're going to speed past this.
shutting down the interstate.
More importantly, we want peace. We do not want any type of uproar.
What do you guys think about that? Now, what I don't want is I don't want people to just attack this guy. We don't need to do that, right? Because what's going to happen is going to happen. So there's no need for us to do that. But what I want people to ask is, what value is there in that? Now, the same people, right? Tyre Nichols wanted peace too. He didn't want to die that night. Tyre Nichols didn't get what he wanted. Let me ask you guys a question. When Russia invaded Ukraine, did Ukraine say they wanted peace? When Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, did the United States say we're going to react to this in a peaceful way? I want you guys to just sit back and think about that. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Is that a knee-jerk reaction? You've taken away a member of my family, but I want to demonstrate to you how much I miss that member of my family in an inconsequential way. Keyword being inconsequential. If it's inconsequential, what kind of reconditioning is being done to ensure that that never happens again? As much as I have respect for Martin Luther King, that's probably one of the reasons why he's celebrated. Because in the making of the civil rights movement, there wasn't a lot of destruction to the United States. Of course, except for the destruction by the people who were destroying us. You know what I'm saying? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have not dropped any radiation emojis for Cyberdyne 100, make sure you guys throw some radiation emojis in the chat for Cyberdyne 100 with the $50 super chat. My man says, I'm new to your broadcast. I'm here for it. B1, B1, B1 to everybody in the chat. So I want everybody to just think about that. I don't want you guys to criticize this guy. It's difficult for anybody to say what they would do when they've lost a family member. But I just want you guys to think about that. Because what you got to understand is that when you see things that are frustrating, what you got to understand is that we are all, every single one of us, we are all victims of white supremacist brain damage, which means that as clear-minded as we think we are, none of us are. The best we can do is try to navigate. And the way that we can navigate is to understand the system and work against it. So now, if the system is celebrating inconsequential reactions to harm, despite the fact that we may not be able to see clearly, knowing that there's an evil system that's guiding this reality that we're in, we have to understand that what that system expects us to react to is incorrect. Let me ask you guys a question. If you guys have children, do you tell your child, if a bully breaks your glasses, just come back to school with a protest sign? Everything will be okay. Has any parent ever told their child that? They haven't. Parents always tell children, you stand up to a bully. This country is a country that prides itself on the Second Amendment. What's the Second Amendment in the Constitution for? That's our self-defense right. One group of people in the country celebrates self-defense. Another group in the country celebrates quote-unquote peaceful protests. Let me ask you guys a question. How did that happen? It makes things a lot easier, but not for us. It makes things a lot easier, but not for us. And that's the point. Shout out to Maine. What up with it, Maine? So now you can't react to violence with peace. That doesn't work. That's a show. Peaceful protest is protest. The protests are symbolism, right? One of the things that we talk about all the time is symbolism. People getting duped with symbolism. Let me ask you guys a question. Protests are a symbol. They're a symbol of not being satisfied. Now, let me ask you guys a question. We're about tangibles, right? What's tangible about a protest? There's no guarantee that anything will come out of a protest. There's not even a guarantee that you will come out of protest, especially if they had those armored police on the street. So if you can't connect with a straight right, if you can't connect with a jab, it's time to start looking for other ways to get your hits in, right? That's what people need to start doing. People need to open up a new paradigm. People need to reassess these situations. When people go on the media, the questions need to be asked, like, how many times are we going to have to protest for this kind of thing to stop? People are now considering different means of sending messages. Well, what do you mean different means? That's just what we mean is different means. You know what would really strike fear in the heart of the United States? If after an incident like this, the streets were a ghost town because something else is on the horizon. This is Don Lemon from CNN, and we're reporting an interesting sight. After the brutal beating of Tyre Nichols, the only people in the streets are the police, and everybody's shocked. We're not exactly sure what's going on. We were expecting mass protests and social unrest, and yet the streets are vacant. Keeping you updated. Back to the studio. I don't necessarily think that black people are scared of rebellion. I honestly think that a lot of people are dealing with dissociative syndrome. And I think that only a small majority of us are still aware enough to see an issue. That's what I think. I think a lot of people, I think many people, most people have tuned out. And one thing that is our duty is that we have to get people tuned back in. I think that, I've never been to prison, but I think after being in prison for a long time, that becomes your environment at a point to where you don't realize you're in prison. How many people are on the planet Earth and just sit there and think all day, well, I'm on the planet Earth. I'm trapped here. I want to go somewhere else. I want to go to Jupiter. I want to go to Mars. I want to go, I want to go to a different place. How many people think that? Most people don't really think beyond where they are encapsulated in. And we're encapsulated in a system of WS. And when you're encapsulated in a system of WS, it's like fish being in a fish tank. A fish tank can be inside of somebody's home, but those fish only know that fish tank as their environment. And I think right now we're in a situation like the fish. Some people, like Finding Nemo, know that there's something else out there, but a lot of people don't. Carlton Way said, I think of leaving the planet. You know what I'm saying? Carlton Way, you trying to find that green She-Hulk out there. You know what I'm saying?
We want peace. We do not want any type of uproar. We do not want any type of disturbance.
President Biden watching for the first time with the rest of the nation saying it is.
So now my question is, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, my first thing would not to be to say that. I don't really care what happens. I'm not even concerned about what goes on. What I want is justice. What I want is justice. And as of right now, what it appears to be is that the alleged system of criminal justice, the alleged justice system, can't supply me justice, but that doesn't stop my thirst for justice. I want justice. You see, like, nobody really comes on and says that. And even in the system of justice, all you're getting is what somebody else thinks that you should get. You're not getting justice. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Torian. That's what people need to say. Do what you feel needs to be done. Do what you feel needs to be done. Because the police did what they felt was needed to be done. And as a result of the police doing what they felt needed to be done, they lost a family member. Why do we owe anybody any civility? That's the question. If you've died in a way that Tyre Nichols died, why is any civility owed to anybody? That's the question. Is there any civility owed? Remember, this is a country where they claim that a war was civil. Think about that. Think about that. Now, here's my question. Would it be easier for these families to get that kind of message out if they talk to a black media outlet? Or would it be more easy for that family to get the kind of message out that they want to get out while having their words hindered by a white media outlet? They're not going to let them say those kind of things, are they? So again, if you ask me, one of the important things that people need to try to do is we need to try to get to these people first. Come talk to us. We'll let you say what you need to say. You don't have to worry about some advisor telling you what you should and shouldn't say on a CNN or on an NBC. You know what I mean?
Yet another painful reminder of the profound fear and trauma, the pain and the exhaustion that Black and brown Americans experience every single day. The release of the brutal.
So I want you guys to see what was just done there. Black and brown Americans. I haven't seen a brown American go through this. And if there are isolated events of a brown American going through this, they haven't gone through it on a systemic basis like how we've gone through it here. Shout out to my man Fantizzi. So now here's my question. This is something that happened to black people. So why is Joe Biden bringing up brown people? Were brown people brought up during the AAPI narrative? When people were talking about the AAPI community dealing with hate crimes, did anybody say, yeah, the hate against Asian and brown people? How many times do you hear Asian and brown people? How many times do you hear anti-Semitism in brown people? How many times do you guys hear that? We got to make our voice loud to the point to where you just look stupid if you're ignoring the things that we're saying. Here's my question. Why are brown people mentioned here? Now, I find that fascinating because when it comes to talking about this, it's black cops, black victim, right? Black cop, black victim. Jason Whitlock, when he talked about it, black cop, black victim. Stephen A. Smith, black cop, black victim. How come Stephen A. or Jason Whitlock didn't bring up brown people? We need to dissect that. Brown people. In Virginia, when that Army sergeant was pepper sprayed, wasn't that a brown police officer that did that? Isn't Sheriff Villanueva, Alex Villanueva, isn't he a brown police officer? Nuri Martinez, isn't she a brown city councilwoman? Aren't the executioners a brown police gang? Now, here's my question. Why is it that when brown is brought up, nobody ever asks about that? Well, why are brown people being brought up? What are you talking about? When Jason Whitlock talked about the reason this happened, he didn't say, yeah, it's because of single black and brown mothers. He didn't say that. Now, here's the question that we got to ask. Why do people like Joe Biden, why do Democrats get so much support? Why do they get 96% of the support doing stuff like this? And how do we decrease that number? How do we decrease that number? I'm glad Alex Villanueva is out too. I didn't know he was out, but I'm glad that that guy is out. Shout out to Deneen. What up with it, Deneen? If you guys haven't smashed that like button, please make sure you guys take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not hit that bell icon, make sure you guys hit the bell icon and subscribe. And please help your boy out by sharing the video out. We got to ask this question, though. Where was a brown person involved in this? Now, when it comes to all of the things that went wrong, all of the critiques and all of the issues, all of those are restricted solely to black people. But now when it comes to people dealing with pain, like Deneen said, now we got to bring up brown. That's interesting.
Profound fear and trauma, the pain and the exhaustion that Black and brown Americans experience every single day. The release of the brutal video comes.
We get exhausted from being mentioned with brown people when it's something specific to us. That's what we're exhausted of. Brown people are exhausted that they have to be anywhere near us because they're racist. We're exhausted by having our issues diluted with including them when they're not included. That's what we're exhausted of. You know what I'm saying?
Coming just one day after the 5 former officers were handed felony charges, including second-degree murder and aggravated kidnapping and assault. All 5 now fired following the incident. And in addition to those 5 officers, the Shelby County Sheriff's Department says 2 sheriff's deputies who appeared at the scene after the beating have been relieved of duty pending the outcome of this administrative investigation.
So administrative investigation, basically we had a police investigating the police. So now here's my question. With the police investigating the police, what's the outcome going to be? The same outcome as it always is. Nothing to see here, folks.
Before the video was released, Nichols' family and their attorneys coming before cameras, pleading for reform and the creation of Tyre's Law in Tennessee, which would require.
Here we go. They're coming up with a Tyre's Law in Tennessee. How many different laws do we have named after people who were the victims of something? How effective are they? Law enforcement. when the law enforcement officers are the ones who are the criminals, what does a new law help? You think the police officers are going to follow that law?
Require officers to intervene if they see crimes committed by a fellow officer.
Why isn't that part of the standard operating policy? Why isn't that standard operating policy, guys? You know what I mean? How come that's not standard operating policy? See, these are the questions that we got to ask, and we got to keep asking them. And I guarantee you, it doesn't matter how many times we ask them, they're not going to answer them. And the reason why they're not going to answer them is because they can't.
It's not just justice for one family, it's justice for all of us.
There we go with nonsense. It's justice for all of us. Yeah, just go ahead right in front of that family that just lost a loved one and say, well, it's not just about you, it's about everyone. The psychological beatdown continues. You know what I'm saying? So now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what the Scorpion unit was. And the thing is how did they deactivate them so quick? What are they going to replace them with? Did they have something on reserve that they had planned on, using in replacement of it? The controversial Memphis Police Department unit at the center of Tyre Nichols' death earlier this month has been deactivated. When have you seen this happen before? Have you ever seen an entire police unit be deactivated because of an instance of police violence? That's my question. If you have, give me a thumbs up and let me know who, when, and where. If you haven't, give me a thumbs down. Have you ever seen an entire police unit be deactivated as a result of police violence? That's my question. The Scorpion Unit, which stands for Street Crimes Operations to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods, has been permanently deactivated. So I find that interesting. I mean, the need for it, right? I mean, clearly there must have been a war going on. Street crime operation to restore peace in our neighborhood. So apparently that neighborhood, it was so damn bad that it was at war. Now, as a result of this, it's just been deactivated. Is there a replacement plan? So because of an instance of police violence, the neighborhood doesn't need this unit anymore. I'm confused as to what's going on. I've never seen them fold a police office, a police unit, and move them out because of an instance of police violence. They didn't shut down Minnesota. They sure as hell didn't shut down LA. But they shut this down. They shut this down. Is that weird? This is the only thing that I want people to answer. I don't want people to answer, is it wrong? I don't want people to answer, is it right? I want to know if you've seen it before. Shout out to Steph Life. Steph Life has seen it before. Steph Life says New York City Street Crimes Unit after Amandau Dilo murder, later reactivated under another name. So basically what ended up happening with that unit is that it was suspended and then repackaged. Now, here's my question. Will that happen with this one? And let me ask you guys a question, Steph Life. With that Amando Dilo murder, was that black police officers killing a black person, or what was the racial composition of that incident? Can anybody tell me? Because if it was black and black, now we have a pattern. White cops, was it a black suspect? That sounds like it. Let me see. Dilo. Was that suspect that they killed white, or was he black? Cedric said that was a 1 in a million. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, it was an African immigrant. Okay. Have there been any other incidents like that? Because despite the fact that that happened, now we have 2 out of how many other cases? I got a whole live stream about police officers and what they've been up to that I plan on doing later on this week. But that's still only 2 cases. Remember, we got 50 states. And inside those 50 states, we got hundreds of cities in each one. Now, let me ask you guys another question. Is this being handled differently as far as the formalities? If you guys think that this is being handled very differently, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that it's being handled very differently, give me a thumbs down. Now, the Scorpion Unit, which stands for Street Crimes Operation to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods, has been permanently deactivated, the Memphis Police Department announced on Saturday, a day after city officials released footage of the fatal confrontation between Nichols and former members to the assigned unit. Here's my question. If the actions of a few police officers are not indicative of the culture of the police department or the unit, like we hear all the time, why close the entire unit down as a result of what 5 police officers did? That's my question. Shout out to my man Ryan Glenn. What up with it, bro? Yeah, I agree, Steph. Rinse and repeat. Facts. The decision came after Memphis Police Chief Sarah Lynn Davis met with other members of the unit who agreed with the deactivation, according to a statement from the department. In the process of listening intently to the family of Tyre Nichols, community leaders, and the uninvolved officers who have done quality work in their assignments, it is in the best interest of all to permanently deactivate the Scorpion Unit, the statement said. Why? How did they come up with that decision? There you go, Deneen. They move at lightning speed when black cops are involved. So now what this isn't telling you, this entire situation is not telling you that anything will change when it comes to white police officers being the offenders. That is what this is telling you. We see what they'll do when it's black police officers who are beating and harming you, but it's still questionable what will be done if white police officers are doing it, which, if you ask me, it's not questionable at all. They're going to be handling white police instances of brutality in the exact same way that they handle them all the time. Okay. So now here it says, what was the Scorpion Unit? The Scorpion Unit, which was launched in November of 2021, encompassed 40 officers split into 4 teams who patrolled high crime hotspots throughout the city, the police department announced at the time. MPD Assistant Chief Sean Jones told reporters during the launch that the Scorpion officers would focus on auto thefts, gang-related crimes, and drug-related crimes. So now here's my question. Why were they doing traffic stops? That doesn't sound like people that would be doing traffic stops. That's like if an undercover police officer pulled you over to give you a ticket. That right there is probably why the kid was scared. But I mean, you know. It's important to us that each member of the community feels that they can go to the grocery store or live in their house without their house being shot or shooting frequently occurring on the streets and roadways, Jones told ABC affiliate WATN in November of 2021. The locations chosen by the police were determined based on the number of 911 calls, Jones said at the time. 2 months into Scorpion's deployment, Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland touted the unit's effectiveness. In his State of the City speech, Strickland claimed the unit was responsible for 566 arrests, 390 of them felony arrests, seized $103,000 in cash, 270 vehicles, 253 weapons between October of 2021 and January of 2022. So now the unit was facing criticism. Criminal justice reform activists and some residents, however, have accused officers in the unit of using excessive force. Ben Crump, an attorney representing Nichols' family, told reporters on Friday that he had heard of several alleged instances of residents being pushed to the ground, cursed at, and suffering other physical injuries at the hands of officers in the unit. One of the alleged victims was 66, according to Crump. He said he was confronted by the unit and he was brutalized, and he had pictures of his injuries, Crump said, and so it was foreseeable that something tragic like this was going to happen. Crump repeatedly called to end the unit. You have a man literally lying down in distress, dying, and people are just talking like this is business as usual. Had Tyre not succumbed to his injuries, how many more times would they have done this, and how many times would they have done it? Have they done it before? He told ABC News Friday. The Memphis PD did not immediately comment on Crump's allegations. Now, pay very close attention to what they didn't comment on. Remember, when it comes to this kind of nonsense, you have to pay attention to what it is that they don't talk about. So pay very close attention to how they didn't confront Crump's comments. Okay? They didn't confront Crump's comments. You guys notice that? Now, here's my question. Why do you all feel that they didn't address Crump's comments? That's important. Always pay attention to what it is that they don't address, and then always make sure that you harp on what it is that they don't address until they address it or until they attempt to shut it down. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to shut it down already by not addressing it. So now here it says the Memphis Police Association, the unit representing the city's police officers, said in a statement Friday following the release of the footage that it is committed to the administration of justice and never condones the mistreatment of any citizen nor abuse of power. Patrick Yo is the president of the National Fraternal Order of Police, one of the largest police unions in the country, issued a statement Friday evening calling Nichols' death a criminal assault and saying that the actions of the officers accused in his death do not constitute legitimate police work or a traffic stop gone wrong. Okay, question. How many times have you heard the police union talk like that? It's not very often that you hear the police union saying that. Now, is it? If you guys have ever heard the police union come out and give a statement like that when it comes to police violence or when it comes to police brutality, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys haven't heard them make those kind of comments, give me a thumbs down. I've never heard them talk like that, ever. I've never heard them just throw police officers under the bus like that. What's different about this time? What's different about this time? So now, why is it that the mainstream media is not asking the question? What's interesting how you all are handling that. Do you all notice that there's a difference in the way that this is being expedited versus in the past? And that question has not been brought up. Cedric People says, I'm thinking color. I'm thinking you're right. If you agree with Cedric, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree with Cedric, give me a thumbs down. Somebody throw a thumbs up in there for me because I agree with Cedric. So now here it says the men arrested and charged for this crime have rights, the presumption of innocence, and the due process protections of anyone accused in the crime. But the bottom line here is that Tyre Nichols, his family, and our entire country need to see justice done swiftly and surely, Yo says in a statement. Since when? Since when? Since when has that been a priority? Don't get it twisted. It's not a priority now. This is a smokescreen. Tony Ramanucci, another attorney representing the family, has called on Chief Davis to disband the Scorpion unit immediately, alleging that the unit has created a continual pattern and practice of bad behavior. The intent of the Scorpion unit has been corrupted, Ramanucci said at the news conference. It cannot be brought back to center with any sense of morality and dignity, and most importantly, trust in this community. How will the community ever trust the Scorpion unit? Strickland said in a video statement Thursday that the department would launch an outside independent review of the training, policies, and operations of its specialized units. Now, that sounds familiar. How many times have we heard that? Yeah, I agree. I agree with Kufu. Sue the union also. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. So now here it says Davis said in an interview with ABC News, George Stephanopoulos, on Friday that she was horrified by the video of the traffic stop that led to Nichols' death. As we continue to try to build trust with our community, this is a very, very heavy cross to bear, not just for our department, but for the departments across the country, she added. Building trust is a day-by-day interaction between everyday traffic stops and every encounter with the community. We all have to be responsible for that, and it's going to be difficult in days to come. Now, here's my question again. Why was the Scorpion unit doing traffic stops? Still, I haven't found a logical connection between that. Why was the Scorpion unit doing traffic stops? Does that make any sense? To me, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense why a special unit was doing traffic stops. So now here what they say is decent and just decision. Crump and Ramanucci also said in a statement on Saturday that they and Nichols' family found the disbandment of the unit to be both appropriate and proportional to the tragic death of Tyre Nichols, which I disagree with, and also a decent and just decision for all citizens of Memphis. I disagree with that. Disbandment of that unit doesn't do anything to replace Tyre Nichols' life, and it doesn't bring him back. KO Kid Fit said, they said, oh, Tadarius had a past of corruption. Yeah, I agree. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed the like button, please take a moment. Make sure you guys smash the like button. Also, if you guys have not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you guys hit the bell icon twice. And if you guys haven't shared this to your other social media, make sure you guys take a moment and do that too. In a statement announcing the unit's deactivation, the Memphis Police Department said it remains committed to serving our community and taking every measure possible to rebuild trust that has been affected negatively by Nichols' death. If you want to build trust, then what you need to do is give a commitment that you will reinvestigate every single instance of police violence and treat each and every instance of police violence in the past and in the future going forward in the exact same expedient manner that you've treated this one. But notice how that promise or guarantee hasn't been given. Do you guys notice that everything has been said except that? We now see how swiftly police can be dealt with. Let's get it. We're not going to do that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on, Rob. You're doing too much. While the heinous actions of a few cast a cloud of dishonor on the title of Scorpion, it is imperative that we, the Memphis Police Department, must take proactive steps in the healing process for all that's impacted, the department said. Well, that's interesting. Healing. We have somebody dead. How are you going to heal that? How do you heal death? Anybody know? How do you heal death? Anybody know how to do that? I don't know how you heal death. And that's what people need to be paying attention to. So there's two other articles about this situation. And I think what we might end up doing is I think that we might end up doing a part 2 to this stream tomorrow. And I think when we do the part 2 to this stream tomorrow, we'll do some call-ins. I don't know if Jay is still in here. Jay said he wanted some call-ins. But I think that will probably be the best thing because this has already been 2 hours and 17 minutes. There's still a lot more that we need to discuss because I want to talk about how NPR talked about this. And there's an article that ABC News came out with that talks about what the footage reveals and quote unquote what questions remain. And I want to know if the questions that ABC News has are the same questions that we have. And if there's anything wrong with those, I want us to put our questions out here. So if you guys want a part 2 of this stream tomorrow with call-ins, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't, then we won't do it. And we'll just do the regularly scheduled stream at 12:55 p.m. Eastern time. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section after the video. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. If you guys haven't smashed that like button, make sure you guys smash that like button. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys hit the bell icon twice. And I will catch you all on the next video. All right? Peace.